Last time, we made an ESP32 think it was a webcam. This time, we've switched things up and it is actually a real webcam. And this other one is a bit special. It's only 32 by 24 pixels, but it measures infrared instead of visible light. We take that tiny image, scale it up, do a bit of processing, JPEG encode it, and stream it over USB, just like a normal webcam would. Let's start with the simple ESP32 webcam. Now this turns out to be surprisingly easy. Now I'm using this very nice little module that has the camera built in, but you should be able to use any suitable S3 module and camera module. What you can't use is one of these ESP32 cam boards. Firstly, there's no USB. Secondly, the ESP32 module that's used on this doesn't have support for native USB, so it just won't work. Our USB UVC setup uses MJPEG encoding, which, as we saw last time, is just a stream of JPEG images sent one after another. The really nice thing about these camera modules is that they already give us a JPEG image, so all we have to do is grab that JPEG data and send it over USB. You really can't get more simple than that. Now obviously, a real webcam would do audio. We have looked at USB UVC in a previous video, so at some point I may try and mash them together into some kind of Frankenstein USB combo device that does video and audio, but that's for another video. So let's move on to the infrared camera. This one is a bit more complicated. First off, it's an I2C device. I actually spent quite a while debugging this, scanning I2C addresses, checking pull-ups, swapping voltages, all the usual stuff. In the end, I looked at the PCB under a microscope and found the real problem. The soldering on this 3.3 volt regulator was a bit dodgy. So after reflowing the joints, everything worked perfectly. A couple of quick notes about this board. The I2C pull-ups are built in, 2.2K to 3.3 volts. And there's also a 3.3 volt regulator on board. In theory, this does mean that it should be powered by 5 volts or at least higher than 3.3 volts, but in practice, I found it was perfectly happy running directly from 3.3 volts as well. Now for this, I am using my custom dev board that I got made by the great guys at PCBWay, but you should be able to use any S3 board, so don't worry about needing a custom board like I've got. With the I2C working, we hit the next challenge. The image is tiny. 32 by 24 pixels just isn't very useful on its own. So what I'm doing is scaling it up to 320 by 240, a factor of 10 in each direction. I've implemented two options, nearest-neighbour scaling and bilinear scaling. Both work well and the frame rate is pretty decent. And once it's scaled, you'd never guess it started life as a 32 by 24 image. Now, if you just wanted to see an ESP32 stream a thermal camera as a USB webcam, that's basically it. But if you are trying to build something like this yourself, there are a few things worth knowing. I2C can often be quite difficult to get working, so I have a checklist now of things to do. The very first thing I do is run an I2C scanner. If nothing shows up, there's no point debugging software, you've got a hardware problem. This is some advice that I really should listen to more often. A lot of I2C problems come down to pull-up resistors. Some modules don't have them at all, some use very weak values. Many Arduino-compatible modules have a 3.3 regulator on board. This is due to the fact that many early Arduino boards were 5-volt systems. Powering them from 3.3 volts can almost work, which is worse than not working at all. So let's do a deep dive on this board in particular. We do have a 3.3 volt regulator on board, so in theory, we should give it more than 3.3 volts in. This particular low dropout regulator looks like it's an ME6212 series. This has a dropout voltage of around 120 mV at 100 mA load, so it probably should still work if we feed in 3.3 volts to it. Ideally though, we should probably feed it in 5 volts. Fortunately, the pull-up resistors are connected to the 3.3 volt line, so we don't need to worry about weird voltage levels on the I2C bus. Other than that, all we have on board is this AT32F415 series microcontroller. This is a 32-bit ARM Cortex-M4 running at 150 MHz with 32K of RAM and 128 KB of flash. Pretty beefy for this little board. But that's pretty much it for the hardware side of things. I am actually very tempted to just remove this 3.3 volt regulator entirely and power the board directly from 3.3 volts. We could just run a jumper wire straight over it. But anyway, pretty cool. USB UVC is pretty interesting technology, so check out the previous video, should be appearing on the screen somewhere now.